Greetings. Today I will talk about John Smith and some of his adventures in the Jamestown Colony. Just over a year after the colonists settled Jamestown and 6 months after the devastating fire, John Smith led 14 men on an expedition from their fort to explore the region that surrounded them on June the 2nd, 1608. Before getting started, I would encourage you to subscribe to the Mossy Feet Books YouTube channel for more great content. If you like my videos, please hit the like button. The more likes I get, the more YouTube will show it to other people, allowing me to grow the channel. I also encourage you to visit my website, www.mossyfeetbooks.com. There you'll find sample chapters, podcasts, a slew of content, and links to where you can buy my books. While visiting the website, you can subscribe to it and receive email notifications of when I publish a new book or other content like this video and podcast. This episode is based on my book, Colonial American History Stories, 1215 through 1665. Smith included a doctor, Walter Russell, and a blacksmith, James Reed. He also took 6 men that knew how to handle firearms: James Bourne, William Cantrill, Richard Featherstone, Thomas Mumford, Ralph Morton, and Michael Sycamore. Fish merchant Richard Keel knew how to identify edible fish, and fisherman Jonas Prophet would know how to catch them. James Watkin and Annis Todkill served as laborers and soldiers. Tailor John Powell kept their clothing in repair, and carpenter Robert Small would handle boat repairs. Smith, as captain, led this expedition out of Jamestown on June the 2nd, 1608. The expedition's purpose was to find the Northwest Passage, which would serve as a direct route to Asia. During the 18-day voyage, the men traveled up the Potomac River to the present site of Washington, D.C., and then traveled downstream and then up the Chesapeake Bay until it reached the Patapsco River. The expedition encountered a severe storm on June the 4th. Throughout the entire voyage, the explorers encountered natives, most of whom were friendly. On June 17th, they did encounter an ambush at Nominee Creek. Gunfire of the colonists amazed the warriors, leading to a peaceful resolution. A stingray stung Smith on July 17th, almost killing him. Smith retaliated by having the creature for his supper that night. The expedition returned to Jamestown on July the 21st. Smith led a second expedition on July 24th. This expedition included 12 men and traveled to the head of Chesapeake Bay, leading Smith to the conclusion that this body of water was not the Northwest Passage. On August the 13th, 1608, the first of John Smith's books on Jamestown was published. John Smith would publish 8 books relating to his experiences at Jamestown Colony, most after his return to England in 1609. His first publication was a letter written to a friend in England who submitted it for publication. Entitled A True Relation, the letter was the first written account of the Jamestown colonists. The publication of the letter displeased the leaders of the Virginia Company because it painted a different picture from what they were trying to portray to potential colonists. Smith's candid account of how the gentlemen that populated a new colony spent their time searching for gold instead of planting crops for food threatened the public perception and company profits. So John Smith completed the path from condemned mutineer to Jamestown's leader when the colonists elected him president on September the 10th, 1608. They elected him after deposing Edward Marie Wingfield as president. Edward Maria Wingfield's leadership had come into question during the late summer months. The settlers, many of whom were gentlemen, were not used to hard work. Their survival in this new colony depended upon that. The weather turned hot and humid, and food supplies ran short. Wingfield was a strict disciplinarian with rigid rules of conduct. He clashed repeatedly with John Smith and some other ones in the colony. On September the 10th, they voted to depose him and elected John Smith as president of the colony. They also charged him with a number of crimes. These crimes included food hoarding, being a Spanish sympathizer, and being an atheist. They imprisoned him on the ship Discovery. He remained on board the ship until January 1608. During his imprisonment, John Smith sued him for slander. Smith had provided competent leadership before his election. Early on, many of the settlers were more focused on searching for gold and not survival. Many of these men were gentlemen, unused to the hard work needed for survival in an unforgiving land. Smith tried to stifle the gold fever and make these men concentrate on the more immediate survival needs. The colony did stabilize as more colonists arrived. Smith completed two separate exploratory voyages by 1608,
and some of
during
his
these
voyages
voyages
in the
explored and
Jamestown
mapped much of the
Colony.
area around
Just
Jamestown.
over a year after the colonists settled
At the conclusion of these voyages,
6 months after
the colonists elected
fire,
a president.
John Smith
enacted several policies.
One of these was the region that surrounded them on June the 2nd,
He that will not
1608.
work shall not eat.
Before getting started,
policy.
I would encourage you to
Under his
subscribe to the
leadership,
conditions
YouTube
steadily
channel
improved.
for more great
The
content.
number of deaths
If you
dropped.
like my videos,
Needed
please hit the
repairs to
like
the
button.
fort were
The
done,
more likes
and
I
the
get,
colonists
the more
dug a
YouTube
well.
will show it to
The
other
production
people,
of pitch,
allowing me to
tar,
grow
and
the
soap
channel.
ash
I
for
also
export
encourage you to
England
visit my
and Greece.
website. Unfortunately for the colony, an accident sent Smith back to England.
Chapters.
He suffered severe burns because of a gunpowder explosion. Because of his injuries, he returned to England. This episode is based on my book, Colonial American History Stories, 1215 through 1664, available on the website www.colonialbooks.com. This is the first book in the 6th-volume Timeline of United States History series. Discover some of the famous and almost forgotten historic stories in America. The story begins with the signing of the Magna Carta in 1215 and the beginnings of the concept of limited government, and ends, for now, with the beginning of the American Revolution in 1775. The articles in the book have more detail, as well as articles are not included in this podcast series. I hope you enjoyed this podcast.